Hey guys, it's Cole with another review for XGR. We're talking about the Resident Evil 3 remake, developed and published by Capcom. It released on Xbox One on April 2nd, 2020. I've got to come clean. I don't remember much about the Resident Evil series in its original capacity. They were released during a phase of my life where I was very convinced that games weren't made for me, so I've gone into these Resident Evil remakes without the nostalgia factor that many other fans of the series have hanging over their heads. That's not to say that I'm not familiar with the original games, however, and if there was one single character from Resident Evil that I could name off the top of my head, it would be Jill Valentine. There's no time wasted between our introduction to Jill and our realization that as a quintessential super cop, she is no doubt a very capable protagonist for the series. Players are immediately thrust into a chase sequence with the hulking Tower of Nightmares known as Nemesis, who is hellbent on destroying Jill, even if he has to chase her all over Raccoon City to do it. The reasoning behind this stems from the ever-horrible Umbrella Corporation's need to destroy the evidence of their actual awfulness that Jill and her team with STARS has gathered. It's a narrative that has steadily evolved over the course of the series, which means you probably don't want to pick up RE3 unless you've played the rest of the games first. Speaking of the rest of the series, Resident Evil 3's remake has been developed using the updated engine that was created for Resident Evil 2's recent remake. Horror games historically have never needed to look pretty. Much of the worlds are shrouded in darkness and grime to create an atmosphere of uncertainty and unease. Resident Evil as a series has certainly never shied away from that reality. That said, the hardware limitations of yesteryear are no longer a thing, and thus Raccoon City needed to shine in a way it never had before. Unless, of course, you've played Resident Evil 2's remake. Because the narratives for Resident Evil 2 and 3 are so closely entwined, there was an opportunity to reuse a lot of environments and other assets from RE2. Capcom clearly had no qualms about doing just that. Besides just being made to look pretty, there are some other changes to Resident Evil 3's remake that make it stand out from its original counterpart. In the original Resident Evil series, players saved their game's progress via typewriters that required ink ribbons, which were naturally few and far between. While the typewriters have remained, Resident Evil 3 allows for unlimited saves regardless of difficulty, doing away with the hunt for and hoarding of crucial ink cartridges. This has the bonus effect of making the game considerably easier and more accessible, especially for those who might not otherwise feel comfortable trying out a survival horror game. However, it also has the negative side effect of making threatening encounters feel less terrifying and more like mild annoyances that are just there to slow down your puzzle-solving progress. The original RE3's multiple endings are also gone. This leaves players with just one linear narrative experience and limits replayability. In order to fill the void of replayability, the Resident Evil 3 remake has been paired up with an entirely new multiplayer game, Resident Evil Resistance. Resistance installs as its own individual game on players' hard drives, has its own achievement list, and has absolutely nothing to do with RE3 canon besides being bundled with it for retail. What Resistance does offer is shockingly unbalanced multiplayer gameplay. To be fair, we expect and accept some degree of challenge to asymmetrical versus multiplayer, but Resistance seems not to have learned anything from other failed entries into the genre. Players can choose to form a squad if they are solo or in a group, and can have up to 4 players working together to foil the lone mastermind. Meanwhile, the mastermind, who is naturally buffed by host advantage, has the task of slowing down the survivors' escape by spawning in well-placed zombie threats as they bounce from security camera to security camera for different views of the map. These different vantage points allow them to create additional chaos, such as occasionally getting to shoot at the survivors with a rifle. The mastermind is even able to take control of the zombies for some up-close and personal combat. The problems Resistance runs into, however, are all too familiar. The wait to get into a match is agonizing unless you're already going in with a full squad of friends. Like every other asymmetrical multiplayer before it, Resistance suffers from an excess of players who want to take on the role of the mastermind and a shortfall of survivors. Wait times can easily exceed 15 minutes just to connect to a game. Because of this imbalance in player bases, there's no way to implement a split between experienced players and newcomers. More experienced players are buffed by a variety of upgrades that are unlocked via leveling, which can leave newer players feeling like they have no choice but to cough up cash for the dreaded microtransactions if they want to stand a chance. There's plenty of room for Resistance to improve, but it will inevitably have to go through some growing pains to make that happen. Overall, Resident Evil 3's remake is strikingly beautiful for a horror game, but its short runtime and frequent reuse of environments does make it feel like it could have been sold as DLC for Resident Evil 2. As nice as it is that Resistance was bundled alongside the remake, the multiplayer experience itself is in desperate need of reworking based on player feedback if it's ever going to stand on its own. With all that said, we're going to wrap up this review for Resident Evil 3. If you enjoy our videos, consider doing the YouTube thing by clicking like, and don't forget to subscribe for more. Thanks for watching.